Hey family, we speak to Life the Browns, and we're here to help you break through what's held you back. Today, we say, no more.
So you can move on from a relationship and still not be healed from it. I mean, you could be doing life, showing up, even moving forward on the outside, and yet certain things still affect you on the inside. You may still feel triggered in certain situations. You may still feel guarded when someone gets close. You may still expect things to go wrong, even when there is no clear reason for it.
Yeah, and a lot of people would call that being careful or protecting ourselves.
You don't need to protect yourself from me.
But family, guess what? In reality, it can be a sign that something in your heart is still unhealed.
Yep. So in this video, we are not just talking about moving on. We are talking about what it actually means to be healed and how God restores your heart without you having to shut it down in the process. Because, there was a point where I thought I had moved on from what I'd been through. On the surface, it looked like I was fine. I was functioning, I was doing what I needed to do, and I was continuing with life. But when I looked honestly, I realized there were still areas in me that I had not addressed. I mean, my confidence had been affected by that failed relationship. My voice had been quietened to the point of almost silence because of that. There were parts of me that had pulled back, even without me realizing it.
Yeah. And for me, family, healing was not something that happened automatically. I actually had to ask for the thing. I actually had to speak up. And after everything I've been through, I had to come to a place where I allowed God to deal with my heart properly. It's like I couldn't move without that happening. I had to be honest about what I was feeling. I told him that my heart was broken, and I need you to heal my heart. And I had to be honest about the hurt. I really had to be honest. Like, my heart hurting, Lord, and willing to let Him walk me through that process.
Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we think we've healed because time has passed. It's been 10 years. I should be over this thing by now. Or because we're no longer in that situation that you got yourself out of something that was difficult and you're thinking, well, maybe I got myself out. I've dealt with it. But healing isn't about distance from what's happened or even time that has passed. Healing is actually about, it's revealing to you how you respond now. There may be triggers. And sometimes you think you've dealt with that button until someone comes and presses it. And you're like, man, that thing's still got electricity flowing through it. I thought I cut that thing off. And you realize it's still there, people. It's still there.
Yeah, you may recognize some of these things. I'm telling you, it's gonna be loud. It's gonna be there. You may find yourself that you avoid certain conversations or situations. You start to distance yourself. You may notice when someone starts to get close, something pulls you back from them. You know what I mean? You may even struggle to trust God, people, even yourself, even when there's no clear reason not to. You may find yourself replaying past situations in your mind or expecting disappointment before anything begins.
Wow.
That's a setup. You set up for failure before anything starts.
Expecting disappointment. I heard someone say you can only give birth to what you're expecting.
Ooh.
Who wants to give birth to disappointment?
Nah.
Nah. So you may have moved on physically, but emotionally something still responds, And that doesn't mean that you're broken. It simply means there may still be something that needs to be healed. It's like an indicator. It's trying to reveal something to you. And it says in Proverbs 4 verse 23, it reminds us and encourages us to guard our hearts, because everything that we do, your life is going to flow from your heart. And so guarding your heart doesn't mean shutting it down. I know that might feel like the easiest thing to do, hardening your heart almost. But we're here to let you know that's not what God has for you. He wants us to steward our hearts well,
Yeah. And one of those things, that keep people from healing is self-preservation. Self-preservation says, I'm not going to let this happen to me again. But what are we self-preserving? What are we
It's
self-preserving?
like I heard someone said, you've been baptized in vinegar. That's
What is this? Seasoned meat?
baptized in vinegar. But you know what, right? It's like, so self-preservation is where you begin to protect yourself. You become more careful and you put certain walls in place. Now, on the surface, all of that sounds innocent. Why would I not want to protect myself? Why would I not want to be more careful? Why would I not want to put walls in place? Is that not guarding your heart? But what often happens in the protection of yourself, is you also close yourself off.
And you know what, babe? And what protects you can also prevent you, meaning moving forward. When we think we protecting ourselves, we actually stopping from moving forward. It can prevent you from trusting again. It can prevent you from being open. You know what I mean? You're not open to anything. You shut down and closed off. I mean, there's nothing that can come in. I mean, a good conversation can be a good thing to you, but you're so closed off, you don't know if it's good or a bad one. It can prevent you from fully stepping into what God has for you. He's trying to get you to something, but closed off.
Closed off. And so even when we think about, how self-preservation has a way of leading us into situations that are not profitable for us, and having us do things that we wouldn't ordinarily do, and respond from ways that we wouldn't ordinarily respond. Because even in the Bible, we see examples like Abraham, for example, where him and Sarah went down to Egypt, I believe, and then it was Abimelech or whatever, and he was like, man, Sarah, you're so pretty. Like, I look at you every day. I know you're a stunner, even for your age. That little part where he said that might have got him a little backhander. But
he was afraid. He was afraid.
Yeah, but even for your age, they're gonna look at you and gonna say like, man, you're beautiful. And if they have any idea that you're my wife,
if looks can kill, my bad. I just had to throw that in there.
Yeah, but if they have any idea that you're my wife, they're gonna see me as a blocker, and they're gonna kill me. So here's what I need you to do. When we go down to Egypt, I need you to tell just a little lie. It's not really a lie, because it's true, right? This is how we do things when we start entering self-preservation. We start justifying a lot of stuff that we were never meant to justify. He's like, I know you're my wife, but you're also my sister. Like technically, yeah, you're my sister too, right? So forget the husband part. Like, don't mention that. Just say, I'm your brother. Let's keep it rolling, because if they find out I'm your husband, they're going to kill me, and I don't want that. And so in that, he was like self-preservation. Why? He was going against what God had showed him, what God had told him. He was trying to do something to keep himself safe, right? And in fact, it did lead to a repeat pattern, because we saw, I think it was his son Isaac that did the same thing. But anyhow, praise Jesus. Patterns keep repeating themselves. But we also see how self-preservation came from a place, and after reading it myself, I'm thinking sometimes we're a bit harsh on this lady, Lot's wife. We're always talking about the salty one.
Yeah, the salty one.
Yeah, sometimes we can be a bit harsh on her, but as I was reading it, I was like, her and Lot, they didn't just have two daughters. They had more than two daughters, and I believe two of those daughters were already married. They had their husbands down in Sodom, right? And so when they left with the two daughters, but they left some of their children behind. And I can only imagine that as she started running, and then the brimstone and everything started to fall, she knew that she left part of her heart back in Sodom. And because of that, she looked back. But here's the thing, even though she was justified in that, that desire to protect her heart, which is her children, the instruction was, don't look back. Don't look back. And so even though sometimes we can be in a position where it's like the self-preservation feels justifiable, it actually has the potential to hinder us and hurt us rather than keep us in the way that we desire. So self-preservation can keep you tied to what hurt you, even when you have physically left it, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So I know for me, one of the ways that God walked me through my disappointment season, another disappointment season, but the breakdown of that relationship was in Ezekiel 37, and I believe I mentioned it before, the Valley of the Dry Bones. So what stood out to me was that God did not ask Ezekiel to ignore what he saw. He asked him to look at it. And so even in that moment when I was disappointed, again, like feeling like I had to build my life back up from scratch, if not below scratch, um, God spoke to me through that verse, and he said, Davina, I'm not asking you to pretend that this doesn't hurt. And I'm not asking you to pretend that, you feel the way you're feeling, and what it looks like. I know it looks miserable, and I know it looks without hope, and I know it feels as though you're going to have to start again, and now you've got less than what you had before. I know that. But, and this is the but, when he took Ezekiel into the Valley of Bones, he took him purposely right into the center of death, right into the center of where life once was, and it wasn't there anymore. And he told him to look around. And then he asked him this question: can these bones live? And this is what he was asking me in that moment. He was asking me to identify what felt dead, not to cover it up, not to pretend that it didn't hurt, but to be honest with what was there. And then he got me to continue reading, and he said, he showed me that he spoke to Ezekiel, and he said, I want you to speak to these bones, not based on what he saw, but based on what God said. He said, prophesy to these bones. And in that, he was saying to me, Davina, you have not been saying what I've been saying. I need you to come into agreement and start saying what I'm saying. And so that meant I had to stop rehearsing what had happened, even in my own thoughts, because it wasn't necessarily like I was going around saying this and saying that to this person, that person, but in my own imagination, in my own heart, I was grieving. And because of that, I wasn't saying or agreeing with what God was saying. He said, I need you to start agreeing with what I'm saying about your life, not what you're thinking and not what you're seeing. And the third thing was expectation, because later on in that chapter, he said, the children of Israel started saying these things because they believed that they had been utterly cut off. They believed that there was no hope in this situation. And he said, Davina, you need to raise your expectation. I need you to be expectant. And so in that, God began to rebuild my confidence. And it didn't happen overnight. It had to be intentional. But it wasn't about the title. It wasn't about me being in a relationship. But it was about who I am in him. And in that, he totally gave me my voice back, as I've shared. He told me to go live. He told me to start doing videos. He helped me to see that there was a future ahead of me that did not look like anything that I had experienced up until that point. And I had a decision to make at that moment. Was I going to stay in a place where I wanted to feel sorry for myself? Or was I actually going to allow him to speak into my life, come into agreement, and raise my expectation? So, yeah.
Yeah. And for me, it was in the agreeing with his word when he said to let go. And I had to believe that I couldn't keep something that I couldn't keep. I actually had to let go of what was familiar for me. I mean, just imagine what that would look like to have to go through that and just trust God fully with everything. But once I gave him my heart, it started becoming more clear that I can now trust him with my heart and open it up to him and give him everything of me, so I can receive back what I needed, which was peace. I needed peace, I needed rest, and I needed my heart healed at the same time. But I also needed to move forward, because in that season, it's like I'm stuck and I don't know where else to go, and I don't know what else to do, and I need help, Lord. What am I supposed to do now? You know what I mean? I'm in that part, like what must I do now, Lord? And for me, it was just the walking every day, the daily walk with him. It was that daily walk that I had to keep doing. So it kept building up my trust in him. And not only that, it started building my relationship up with him too. So I'm hearing him more clearly. I'm doing things that pleases the both of us. Me and him having great conversations and having fun together, and I'm having joy and peace in my heart, and I'm experiencing the joys of the Lord. At the same time, did I forget what happened? No, but I had a better peace and a better sense of where my direction was going. I didn't have to swallow or you just keep replaying that whole thing over and over again. Oh well, I didn't. No, I moved on, but I moved on to better. And the reason why it was better for me because I had to trust God. I trusted Him. I trusted Him, and that helped me to move with peace and joy. I woke up with joy every day.
Yeah.
So I just want to tell you guys what healing looks like. Healing doesn't mean, like I said, you forget what happened. It means you respond differently to it. That's what I'm saying to you. You're going to respond differently to it. You can remember without reacting emotionally. You can be open without being naive. You can trust again without forcing it.
Yeah. And I like that bit where you just said you can open again without being naive, because the lie will tell you that if you open yourself up to this and allow yourself to be vulnerable in this situation again, then there's a level of naivety there, and you're being stupid, and you can only expect to get hurt on the back of that. But I really like that because it shows, it's like it's reminding us, no, we're not just opening ourselves up and taking down all boundaries and what have you. We are allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with God, allowing God to speak to us, and showing us the areas where our heart has actually hardened, because He doesn't want our hearts to be hard, especially towards Him, because He's speaking to us. But if our hearts are hard, it's like we don't even realize, because one of the verses that I really like is the whole thing of like, well, when I say really like, it's kind of like this. It's like, do not allow the root of bitterness to spring up,
Yeah.
And so, oftentimes we've got like weeds start growing in your garden. And when they start out, you can't tell the difference between a weed and a plant, Oftentimes they look the same. But if you let that thing continue to grow, that thing will grow to the point it chokes out everything beautiful in your garden, right? And even though you didn't plant it, it planted itself and it's found its way in there to choke out everything. And God's like, don't even let that thing take root. And the way that we do that is to allow ourselves to be vulnerable with Him. So the thing is, it's like we're no longer trying to control everything. This is how we get there. We don't try to control everything. It's like we are no longer trying to protect ourselves from everything. We are able to move forward without fear, leading us when we place our trust in God and allow Him to help our hearts to heal and identify the areas where our hearts may become hardened because of disappointment, because of the pain, because of this, because of that. But it's a working of the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, healing is not forgetting, family. It's responding differently. And we all have that choice. Either we're going to respond differently or we're going to react. And I say you should respond differently.
Yeah, respond differently.
And you cannot heal your heart by protecting it from everything. You have to be open to some things.
Yeah, because you heal your heart, as I just previously said, by trusting God with it. Like your heart is safe with God. And I think that's the thing that we have to realize. Our hearts are safe with God.
Yeah, that's gonna require some vulnerability.
Totally.
That's gonna require that. I'm gonna tell y'all, family. I'm vulnerable too. I had to cry when God was telling me to cry. But anyway.
Yeah. But know this, that vulnerability is not a weakness. It's often the place where breakthrough begins. And so when you allow God to heal your heart, you're not just moving on, you're moving forward as a whole you.
So, family, move on, be whole in the name of Jesus.
We're the Browns. We'll see you in the next video.